Question: are Ahmadis just as discriminated against here as they are in Pakistan? A British member of the Ahmadiyya sect of Islam has been imprisoned in Pakistan after he was filmed reading the Quran. I want to know whether there is discrimination against Ahmadis here, similar to that which they face in Pakistan. And if you're a British Pakistani, how do you feel about Ahmadis? Do you see them as Muslims or as heretics? And if you are a British Ahmadi, do you think the discrimination that exists in that part of the world exists here too? 81869 on the text, or email me, nihal@bbc.co.uk, and tell me what you think. All of that after the news with Kiran Rator.
BBC Asian Network News.
The family of a British man arrested in Pakistan for posing as a Muslim say they want the British government to help bring it back to the UK. 72-year-old Masood Ahmed is part of the minority Ahmadi sect, who are considered heretics in the country. Mr. Ahmed was jailed on blasphemy charges in November after being secretly filmed reading verses from the Quran. He could face up to 3 years in prison. His son Abbas feels that religious laws like the ones against his father in Pakistan are absurd.
My father's never did anything wrong, in my opinion anyway. I'm not asking about the Pakistani laws. Any man can read the verse of the Quran. It's not about the Muslim or Christian.
So, are Ahmadis just as discriminated against here as they are in Pakistan? That's the question I have for you this morning. The reason I'm asking it is because a 72-year-old gentleman called Masood Ahmed from Glasgow has been in prison in Pakistan since November. Why? Because he was secretly filmed reading the Quran. He was essentially set up. He is an Ahmadi, and since the mid-70s it's been illegal for members of the Ahmadiyya sect to worship openly in that country. Ahmadis there face hostility, persecution and death. But we want to know whether Ahmadis are discriminated against here in the UK. There is a sizable Ahmadiyya community in the UK, and of course they are openly able to worship in their own mosques. But are they being discriminated against here in the UK by other British Pakistanis? If you are British Pakistani and you knew or met someone who called themselves an Ahmadi Muslim, how would you react? Would you be insulted that they added the term Muslim? Would you be insulted that people described them as a sect of Islam? In 2012, I interviewed Ahmad Farouk on the programme. His brother was killed in Pakistan just because he was an Ahmadi. Ahmad himself was shot in the head and showed me the scar where the bullet had gone in. Now, when you hear stories like that, does it make you re-evaluate how you look at Ahmadis? After all, if Islam is a religion of peace and love, why are Ahmadis so discriminated against and persecuted? Perhaps you don't regard them to be Muslims and feel that they are essentially heretics for describing themselves as such. But what about here, in a country which is more tolerant? I've been told stories of discrimination against Ahmadis. Do you think it's as bad here as it is in other parts of the world? Do you think that British Pakistanis have brought over that attitude to this country? And please try and justify it. If you do not feel that an Ahmadi should call themselves a Muslim, then by all means text, call, email, and we'll have that conversation. If you as an Ahmadi have been discriminated against here in the UK, equally I'd like to hear from you and know what form that discrimination took. Is it verbal? Is it in the job market, the housing market, or just on the street? It is 12 minutes past 10 and you're listening to me, Nihal, live on the BBC Asian Network. We're talking about the Ahmadiyya community and we're asking the question, are Ahmadis here in the UK just as discriminated against as they are in Pakistan? Let's speak to Imam Doodhwali, who is a guest of mine this morning. Happy New Year to you, Imam Doodhwali.
Happy New Year to you as well, Nihal.
Could you tell me, do you believe that Ahmadis face the same levels of discrimination that they do in other parts of the world here in the UK?
I personally don't, and I haven't read anywhere any stories in the news. I mean, even when I got the call this morning, I was trying to look up any stories of persecution of Ahmadis within this country, and I can't find much on any website or any newspaper or even on their websites, on their official websites, that they have been persecuted or this person's been attacked for being Ahmadi. So I think in this country, I think we're very fortunate to have a lot of respect amongst each other, and we are free to believe whatever we want to believe, and therefore I don't think there is any discrimination towards Ahmadis.
Of course, unlike in Pakistan, we are a tolerant nation towards Ahmadis and indeed towards any religious minority here in the UK, aren't we, Imam Doodhwali? Whereas, of course, in Pakistan, the Ahmadi sect has been essentially outlawed, hasn't it, for many decades now?
I think
does that doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't low-level discrimination here in the UK, and also as well, of course, the same attitudes that exist in Pakistan or amongst certain Pakistanis towards Ahmadis may well exist here.
I think Pakistan is a totally different kettle of fish, because I think if you look at sectarianism within Pakistan, you find Sunnis against Shias, Shias against Sunnis.
Yes, that's very true.
Yeah, and so you're going to get different sects fighting different sects for different reasons. When it comes to Ahmadis, I think it's unheard of. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard of any attack on any Ahmadi in this country. What I have heard of is people highlighting the difference between an Ahmadi and a Muslim and the core beliefs of Orthodox Islam and the core beliefs of Ahmadis.
Do you believe that Ahmadis have a right to call themselves Muslims, Imam Doodhwali?
I think it's a consensus throughout the world within the Muslim community, around every single country around the world. And I'm not only talking about Pakistan here, we're talking about Muslims in Bangladesh, in India, in Pakistan, in Saudi Arabia, around the Arab world, Africa, Europe, everywhere. There's a consensus that Ahmadis do not fall under the fundamental teachings of Islam. They have similarities, and lots of similarities, but some of the core beliefs of Islam they are going against, and therefore they cannot be called Muslim.
Right. So therefore, by describing,
it's a consensus throughout the world.
But therefore, by describing themselves as Muslims, is that an insult to mainstream Islam and mainstream Islamic beliefs?
I mean, some may call it an insult, and some may call it a deception. And I think lots of unaware Muslims who are just practicing Islam fall into a trap of deception of Ahmadis and bring them towards their sect. Now, if
are you saying that some quote unquote mainstream Muslims are lured into the Ahmadi sect?
Absolutely. And what you will find is that there will be imams and there will be other activists within the Muslim community who are highlighting this danger for the mainstream Muslim community, that this is not, if you are thinking that this is part of the mainstream Islam, then you need to understand that these are their beliefs. Now, if that is called discrimination, then that is what is happening, but I would not call that discrimination. I would call that highlighting the differences between mainstream Islam and Ahmadis.
But also as well, Imam, then pointing out the faults, pointing out, I mean, by you use your own word, the deception.
I think what you're trying to highlight is these are the teachings of their founder, Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani.
Yes.
And this is what he says about Prophet Muhammad. This is what he says about Prophet Jesus. This is what he says about those people who don't believe in him, and these are the insults that he has levied towards anyone who doesn't believe in him. These are the insults towards all the prophets that he has said, etc., etc. Now, if somebody was to highlight these according to the books that their founder has written, then I think that's important from mainstream Islamic perspective.
Okay, thank you, Imam Doodhwali. Let's speak to Farid Ahmed, who is a spokesman for the Ahmadiyya community here in the UK. Farid, Happy New Year to you.
And to you.
Your religion is a deception, according to Imam Doodhwali, and that people are lured into it.
Well, I think it's an interesting observation, but it's actually nothing to do with the truth. The truth is that we are Muslims. We follow the Quran. We follow the Sunnah. We have the same kalima as all Muslims in the world, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So to call that a deception would be to call every Muslim a deception and every form of Islam a deception. I think the fact is that the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, I mean, for the listeners, let's be clear, the difference between us and other Muslims is that Muslims are awaiting a reformer, a Messiah. We believe that he came, and he is the founder of our community. Others are still waiting. So there's no difference in the expectation. The difference is in the identity of the person who was prophesied. So, of course, those who reject him will claim that this is wrong, but those who accept him will accept him as the promised Messiah. There's no deception. If the Imam feels that's a deception, then I think he will consider every theological difference with every sect a deception as well.
Can I ask you, Farid, is there discrimination against Ahmadis here in the UK? Not, of course, to the level that it would be in Pakistan, because it's enshrined in law in Pakistan, but is there low-level discrimination against Ahmadis from the mainstream Muslim community here in the UK?
Pakistan is unique, as you say, that the discrimination and persecution is state-sponsored. So there's nothing like that in the UK, and we're grateful that we live in a country where we have absolute freedom of religion. What we have found, however, is that some of the prejudices that exist in Pakistan have manifested themselves here. So, for example, broadcasts on satellite television, literature being distributed, calling Ahmadis, labelling them as wajibul qatl, which means liable to be killed. Now, I don't know if you can call that discrimination.
So is that broadcast from other countries but available to view here in the UK, or broadcast in the UK? Because, of course, if it's broadcast in the UK, it goes very much against Ofcom rules, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I think it falls into both categories. And fortunately, as I mentioned, we live in a society where there is tolerance, where there is respect, and there's law and order. And Ofcom has stepped in and held those companies and broadcasters to account. But the fact is that it's amazing that even in this country those broadcasts took place at all. And similarly, it's amazing that in this country you have some literature distributed that says Ahmadis are wajibul qatl, and in an Islamic country they will be put to death. Now, you may not call that discrimination, but I think that's certainly unhelpful and generates intolerance, whereas we need to work together to promote tolerance and harmony in society and to promote understanding of different faiths and beliefs.
Imam Doodhwali, help me to understand this. My understanding of Islam is that the Prophet Muhammad was the last prophet.
That's right.
Right, okay. So this idea of the return of a prophet that Farid spoke about, is that something that you recognise?
We don't recognise the return of any other prophet after the Prophet Muhammad as a prophet. We recognise the return of Jesus,
right,
and we feel that he will come in later times, but he will come as a follower of Prophet Muhammad. He will not come as a prophet. Whereas here we have claims of this founder who claims that sometimes he claimed that he was Jesus, sometimes he claimed that he was Messiah, sometimes he claimed that he was the prophet receiving messages from God, and there was lots of confusing messages which were coming out from this individual, and the people who follow him are affiliated to Ahmadi, are affiliated to Ghulam Ahmed, whereas Muslims are affiliated to Prophet Muhammad.
Farid?
Hello?
Farid?
Yes, of course. Well, I think two things. One, in the Quran, it describes the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, as Khatam al-Nabiyyin. In other words, the seal of the prophets. We accept him as Khatam al-Nabiyyin, as the seal of the prophets, and accept him as the final messenger who brought a law, and the messenger who is higher in status than all other prophets. So there's no difference between us and other Muslims on that issue. And what's interesting is that the Imam has said that Jesus will return, but magically he's lost his status as a prophet. So, at one stage he was on earth as a prophet, and when he comes back he won't be a prophet. So I leave that for him to respond to. Our beliefs, as I mentioned...
What I said is that he will not return as a prophet with a new message.
Will he be a prophet when he returns?
Not as a prophet. He will not preach as a prophet. He will be a leader for the Muslims, but he will not preach as a prophet. So, for example, every prophet came with a message. He will follow the message of Prophet Muhammad, the last and final messenger.
So, in other words, what he's saying is that he has lost his status as a prophet when he returns. Other Muslims will disagree with that. But
I have not said he's lost. He was a prophet, but when he comes here, he will be a follower of Prophet Muhammad.
Again, I mean, what you're saying is he won't be a prophet in his own right. He won't be a prophet in the eyes of God. So in the Quran, when Jesus is described as a prophet, when he comes back,
you're twisting words again, Farid. I think people understand what I'm saying. I think if you want to twist.
Well, no, actually, I mean, to be fair, as devil's advocate, he's not twisting words. He's just repeating what you said, because purely, surely, logically speaking, if first time round he's a prophet and he comes back he's not a prophet, then he's lost some status, hasn't he?
But he's not lost the status of prophethood. But when he
he could still be called a prophet when he comes back.
He could still be called a prophet.
Oh, well, there you go then.
But as a messenger, he will not bring a new message.
Right. Okay. I think that's very clear, Farid. He hasn't lost the status of prophet. But anyway, I want to get some practical examples, Farid, because Imam Doodhwali said that he didn't feel that there'd been any discrimination against Ahmadis here in the UK. Do you, as a spokesperson for the Ahmadiyya community, have any practical examples of where Ahmadis here in the UK have been discriminated against?
Well, as I mentioned, there has been campaigns run spreading intolerance against Ahmadis, and there was one case...
But that's largely from outside of the UK, isn't it?
No, from the UK itself, from certain Muslims. And I stress it is a minority of Muslims, because, as in Pakistan, these things are all done by a religious minority, not the majority. So in Tooting, for example, there were sermons broadcast in mosques against us, and as a result, a member of the Ahmadiyya community lost his job on grounds of faith. Now, we challenged that, and we won that decision in the tribunal. So it's one example of people, listening to these prejudices and taking action on them. Similarly, there were posters put up around town saying, do not fall for the deception of Qadianis, as they call us, do not employ them, do not socialise, etc., etc. So there was a campaign, and there is still a campaign where information and misinformation is spread. That's fine. If people want to debate...
What's the misinformation that's spread, though, Farid?
The latest information, you'll find leaflets which describe us as wajibul qatl, liable to be killed. Now,
here in the UK? In
the UK.
Imam Doodhwali, I mean, I can't ask you necessarily to comment on that specifically because you haven't seen those leaflets, but what would you say to Muslims who are giving out leaflets like that, Imam?
I think there's laws in this country. You can't have leaflets that say these people are wajibul qatl in this country. I mean, this is legal issue which can easily be taken to the police, and the person can be prosecuted. In this country, everyone has a legal right to practice their faith, their religion as they want, without prejudice. And
can I ask you actually, Imam, if you were to stand up in your mosque and say, or would you ever stand up in your mosque and say, you must not discriminate against Ahmadis? How do you think? Would you say that?
I have no issue with that, because...
Have you ever done it?
I've stood up and I've said we don't discriminate against anyone. Why? Christians, Hindus, Jews, Sikhs, Ahmadis, whoever wants to mix with anyone, they are free to mix with anyone. But we have to be clear that what are the beliefs of mainstream Islam and what are the beliefs of Ahmadis. Now, Ahmadis are not only considered out of the fold of Islam by Muslims in the UK. We need to understand that every single country in the world, Saudi Arabia does not allow the Ahmadi community to come and worship in Mecca and Medina, because they are out of the fold of Islam.
Okay, Fareed, you wanted to ask the Imam a question?
Yes, I mean, I welcome the fact that he says that he would say there shouldn't be discrimination. I'd be very interested to hear his views on the laws in Pakistan that says if Ahmadis call themselves Muslims, they should be punishable by 3 years imprisonment. Does he stand up and condemn those laws? Does he condemn the fact that Ahmadis are prevented from practicing their faith, without hindrance, without persecution in different countries in the world? Does he condemn the fact that the leaflets which say Ahmadis are wajib al-qatl should not be distributed, and those mosques that do distribute them are practicing something which is against Islam?
Have you spoken to the police about these leaflets? Because I haven't seen these leaflets, so I can't comment on what leaflets you're talking about. I'm asking
a good point, though, from Imam Doodhwali, Fareed, is what did the police say about these leaflets?
Well, they're looking at them. We have reported them. Of course we've reported them, and they will take action in their own way. There's no doubt about them. They're on their website. So there's no action
been taken yet?
Well, I'm not going to speak for how long the police take to act on issues.
Well, how long ago did you report it?
The latest one was about a week ago.
Right, the latest one. Okay, so then what was done in previous occasions then?
Well, in previous occasions, they looked at it, and they have spoken to people that, so if you have...
Has anyone been prosecuted?
Not to my knowledge, no. And I think that's unacceptable. I think if you have a leaflet which says that the Ahmadis should be killed, I think that's completely unacceptable.
As indeed does Imam Doodhwali. He agrees with you.
I don't know, does he?
No, he does. He said it.
I said that clearly. Yeah. I said that clearly. And I think, you see, Nihal, I think this issue has been...
So 1 second, Fareed. Just let Imam finish his point, and then I'll bring you back in, I promise.
I think what we are gathering is that there's no credible evidence being presented that the Ahmadis are persecuted in this country. There's not one example of any attack. There's not one example of physical abuse, verbal abuse. What we are seeing is maybe some groups that are against Ahmadis going overboard, getting too enthusiastic in their literature, and I think that can be dealt with by the courts and by the police. But in reality, in terms of persecution, there's, to compare this with Pakistan or even 1% of Pakistan is totally out of the question here.
Even though Fareed has pointed out that these leaflets are going out. Fareed, come back in.
Yes, so the Imam didn't answer my question about Pakistan and the status of wajib al-qatl that's been accorded to Ahmadis.
Well, he has made it clear that he feels that is not acceptable. I mean, and I'm sure he means... well, I don't wish to put words into your mouth, Imam, but I'm sure that you feel it's acceptable that Ahmadis are not murdered wherever they are in the world. That's unacceptable, is it? Imam Doodhwali?
Sorry?
Yes. I just want to be clear that...
Which country has a law that they are, if they call themselves Ahmadi Muslims, then they are killed? Which country has a law like this?
Well, they're certainly imprisoned.
Well, in Pakistan, let's be clear, there are anti-Ahmadiyya laws. My question to you was, is it acceptable that if we call ourselves Muslims in Pakistan that we should face 3 years imprisonment? And if under the blasphemy laws, that is deemed to be offending the sensibilities of Muslims, and that's punishable by death? That's the blasphemy law in Pakistan.
Imam, what kind of action should be taken against a mosque that asks its worshippers to not visit Ahmadi-owned shops? What would you say to someone who runs a mosque who preaches that kind of language?
I don't know. I mean, what can you say? Are there mosques that are saying that? I don't know. I mean...
Well, someone's just tweeted me saying that in a part of South London we have mosques asking worshippers to not visit Ahmadi-owned shops. Now, rather than querying whether that happened or not, if it was happening, what would you advise the people who run that mosque?
People are free to shop wherever they want, and I'd like to know the reasons why the Imam is saying that, first of all, and then...
what reasons would you think that someone would ask their flock, as it were, to not visit Ahmadi's shop?
I can't think of any reason at the moment. I don't know. I mean, why would someone say don't go to Tesco's, or why would someone say they might want to boycott it for some reason?
And you can't think of a reason why a mainstream Muslim mosque may just... you can't think of a single reason.
Some type of boycott, because when you hear about some organisation saying don't go to this shop or don't go to that shop because they fund so-and-so, they fund so-and-so, so maybe it's a boycott of some sort, in trying to stop people from boycotting for some reason. Now, I cannot answer for something which I don't know the background of.
Right, but if they just say Ahmadi shops, then clearly, I mean, it's not a huge leap of faith, no pun intended, to think that it may be to do with the fact they don't approve of Ahmadis. Now, is that acceptable? So, say I gave it as that reason. I know we need to go to a track in a minute, but say that was the reason, then how would you feel about a mosque doing that?
It depends on what the reasons are. Tell you the truth.
Well, I've just outlined what could be one of the reasons. So, say it was that reason.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just because they're Ahmadi, then no.
Right, then that's wrong, is it?
Reasons on top of that, then...
Right. So if people are discriminating against Ahmadis just because they're Ahmadis, then that is wrong in your view?
Yes.
Okay. Imam Doodhwali, thank you. Farid Ahmed, thank you very much as well. 81869 is the text number. Email nihal@bbc.co.uk. Now, listen, I'm getting a lot of traffic on Twitter, but where are the calls? Where are the texts? Where are the emails? What do you think of the Ahmadi sect of Islam? Do you feel that they shouldn't have a right to call themselves Muslims? Do you agree that you should not visit a shop owned by an Ahmadi? And if you are an Ahmadi, do you feel that discrimination exists here? Imam Doodhwali hasn't seen a single example of it, doesn't believe that it's happening here in the UK, that there is any attacks on Ahmadis. Can you say different? Is whether Ahmadis are as discriminated against here as they are in Pakistan. Let's speak to Wadood, who is a guest of mine. We have Zach and Umar who've got in contact with us as well. Do so, please, because I've getting loads of people on Twitter that are hollering at me, but in terms of text, calls and emails, not as many. So please do pick up the phone and give us a call about this, how you feel about the Ahmadi community calling themselves Muslims. And if you are an Ahmadi, then do you feel that you are discriminated against here in the UK? Wadood, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, Nihal. How are you doing?
I'm very well, sir. Thanks for joining us on the show. Now, you left Pakistan after being persecuted as being an Ahmadi.
That is correct, yes.
Over here, while, of course, it could never be on the same level because it's not legally enshrined to be able to persecute you or your brothers and sisters. Is there any discrimination against Ahmadis here from the British Pakistani community?
You can say yes, there is. But as you rightly mentioned, the level that you see in Pakistan is nowhere matched in UK. And you know, the good thing about our country is that it does give you that religious freedom. Everyone has a right to believe what they want to believe. They have a right of expression, and they have a right to believe in certain scripture, one or the other. It is very difficult for someone to persecute Ahmadis here. But having said that, the underlying issue of non-Ahmadis not getting on with Ahmadis is still there. I mean, you're still shunned upon when you speak to people. If they find out that you're an Ahmadi Muslim, they will not want to associate with you in future. I mean, I've been refused to be sold a book in the past when I was in Birmingham once, and I went to a bookshop to buy a book, which was a religious book, and I had my ring on my hand, which most Ahmadis wear this ring, and it says, it has a verse of Holy Quran on it, which is Allah Bekafin Abdahu. Now, that verse, usually only Ahmadis wear this ring, and this person must know this, because while I was giving him money, he saw the ring on my hand, and he refused to sell me the book. Point blankly, so I'm not going to sell it to you. And I asked him why he didn't want to sell it to me, but he wouldn't tell me. And the only thing I could think of at the time, when I had the money in my hand, he's a bookseller, he wants business, he wants to sell me the book. All of a sudden, he's not selling me that book because he recognized me to be an Ahmadi. So the underlying issue of Ahmadis not accepted...
But are you aware how insulting, potentially, your beliefs are to mainstream Muslims? Are you conscious of that? Are you sensitive to that? Do you try and understand why mainstream Muslims, not all, of course, but some, are insulted by what you believe in.
I understand why they think that our beliefs are insulting, but at least give us a chance to express ourselves. Let's have a debate about it, and let's have a, adult-to-adult conversation. There's no point saying, well, I'm not going to speak to you, or I'm going to go to an extent to persecute someone without listening to what their beliefs are. I mean, they can pick and choose what they want to show to the general public, but they don't show the how much of similarities between the mainstream Islam and Ahmadis is. The debate about this is it should happen, and that's the whole point.
So what kind of debate? What kind of questions would you like mainstream Islam, as it were, to ask you?
I mean, to ask about the finality of the prophethood and understanding why do we believe that Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was Khatam al-Nabiyyin, but in the sense that we believe he was a Khatam al-Nabiyyin, or the last prophet, so to speak. And we also believe that he was a last law-bearing prophet, and other prophets can come after him. And that's one of the...
So then the person... All right, okay, so then the person that you name your sect after, he was not a prophet.
We do believe him to be a prophet.
So then, surely then Prophet Muhammad cannot have been the last prophet.
So that's the whole point of debate. We believe him to be the last law-bearing prophet, but messengers can come after him. And mainstream Muslims believe that Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the last.
But are you making a distinction between a prophet and a messenger?
What we believe that a prophet with a new Sharia cannot come. So the Sharia is finished at the time of Holy Prophet. The Quran was the last law that's been sent to mankind by Allah, and there can't be any more scriptures afterwards, and there can't be any more laws. But revivals of Islam can come. They have come in other religions as well. After the prophets, the other prophets do come to revive that religion. Our belief is that Islam itself still needs to spread, and it still needs to go beyond the shores of South Asia or Middle East and other countries, and the widespread needs to happen, and we are doing it as Ahmadi Muslims. We're proud to be promoting the peaceful message of Islam to the corners of the earth, and we also believe that Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the last law-bearing prophet. So we believe him to be Khatam al-Nabiyyin in that sense, that he was the last law-bearing prophet. The law cannot change after that. That was the last law that's been laid by Allah, and everybody has to follow it.
Right.
But we also believe the revivers of that religion can come, and they can be prophets, messengers, but they cannot bring any other scripture, any other law.
Okay. Well, let's speak to Imam Abdullah Hassan from the East London Mosque. Happy New Year to you, Imam Hassan.
Nice to be on your show again.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Most welcome. Imam Hassan.
I'm not, correctly, I'm not Imam of East London Mosque. I'm Imam of another mosque.
In East London?
I was, but now I've just started a new post in Peterborough.
Oh, right. Okay, so you're outside of London now. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Imam Hassan, what do you make of Wadud saying that he just wishes that there would be more of a conversation between someone such as yourself and the Ahmadi community?
That has been happening for decades all over the world. From a theological academic perspective, scholars have been discussing and debating with various people regarding their beliefs, regarding the practices. So I'm not sure if people have been approached in the right manner, in the right way, with the right approach, if they have denied a certain group of people or person their debate. Muslim scholars and imams who are qualified in that area, I'm sure, will be too willing to debate and discuss in the academic manner.
So what do you make of the Pakistani state's position on the Ahmadiyya sect, where they are essentially criminalised?
Pakistani state, obviously, I am not living in Pakistan. I don't know the laws of.
Well, you are aware, are you not, that Ahmadis are discriminated against? So what do you make of that? Because of course, there's one thing to have a discussion and a debate and to be grown up about this. There's another thing entirely to imprison people for 3 years if they are Ahmadi and say that they're Muslims.
If
that's not much of a debate, is it?
If that is the law of the we have so many laws all over the world that we may not agree with. Yeah, we may.
Do you agree with that law? Do you agree with that law?
Let me. We may say that certain laws in America, for us.
Do you agree with that law?
That law, I'm not sure in what context that they are placing it. Again, I can't comment on Pakistan.
Well, you can. Well, of course you can. I'm asking you if you feel that Ahmadis have a right to call themselves Muslims.
Oh, if you're asking me that question,
yes, I'll ask you that question.
I would say no.
Right. And then I'll follow on from that question. Then, should they be imprisoned in Pakistan for calling themselves Muslims?
May I finish?
No, because I'm asking you the question following on from that question to get you back to one that you feel you couldn't answer before. So I've made a bridge between the two to allow you to answer it, which is, do you then feel that if it is wrong for an Ahmadi to call themselves a Muslim, that in Pakistan it is right to imprison an Ahmadi for calling himself a Muslim or herself? Do you think that's right?
If they believe that is right, if a country...
I'm asking you. I'm asking you. I know you're trying to wriggle out of it, but I'd like to know whether you agree with it or not.
I am not.
You are.
Everyone
can hear you are.
If the British government were to perhaps pass that law, then you can ask me that question. I would say, look.
Well, why? Can you only have an opinion on what the British government? You can't have an opinion on the.
In our country, because I don't know the laws of Pakistan.
Well, I'm telling you. I'm telling you that is the law.
I don't know the background behind it. What I would say as an imam, from a theological perspective, is that those who call Ahmadiyya...
All right, look, it's fine. You don't want to answer the question. It's fine. Let's speak to Zach. Let's add something. Wadood, go on, Wadood.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I mean, this is the whole, my point exactly, that the debate about this doesn't happen. People would say, well, no, this and that, and I don't know this and I don't know that. They all know this. I mean, to call myself a Muslim...
No, I don't. Excuse me, I don't mean that. Excuse me, I don't mean that. I said we are willing to have a academic debate. We are willing to have a theological...
Well, I'm glad you're willing to have it. You're not willing to ask some question about what the Pakistan government does. But Wadood, go on.
Well, yeah, I mean, in Pakistan, the religious freedom is restricted for Ahmadis. I mean, we are persecuted to an extent that one of our doctors, Dr. Ahmed nowadays, is actually in prison at the moment because he recites some of the verses of Holy Quran to one of his patients. And when a state is dictating someone's personal beliefs so much, then how can you have a debate about this? I mean, a country who primes itself to be the fort of Islam, so to speak, is denying the religious freedom which was given by the Holy Prophet to everyone, not just Muslims, but everyone.
Well, dude, you can understand why Muslims are confused. Why you say, on one point, you regard the Prophet Muhammad to be the last prophet, and then you accept another one coming along who you will class in the word prophet. Now, if he's the last prophet, then you cannot call the founder of your faith a prophet as well, surely.
He claimed to be not just a prophet, but Messiah, the Mahdi, so many different titles.
Okay.
Himself.
Okay, what do?
Not just a prophet, Mahdi. Then he claimed to be the prophet Jesus incarnate. He claimed to be the Mahdi. He claimed, with some reports, he claimed to be receiving revelation, and in some reports that he's God incarnate.
Right. What, dude?
Okay, so to finish my point, there has to be a clear distinction between the two. I mean, we believe the Holy Prophet to be the last law-bearing prophet, so there's no confusion about this in our minds. The confusion is actually in the minds of normal Muslims or mainstream Muslims. We, as an Ahmadi Muslims, believe that the Holy Prophet ﷺ did prophesy a Messiah or a reviver of the religion will come. It's in all scripture, it's in all religions that a reviver or Messiah will actually come at the latter days. And we believe him to be Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian al-Islam, to be that prophet, to be that reviver of religion, who has come to revive the message of Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, if you look at the Muslim society nowadays, everyone's crying out for someone to come and fix it. And when we say the Messiah has come, everyone's waiting for that Messiah to come. But when we say he's come, they're not willing to even...
Well, if they, with all due respect, if they're crying out to fix it and you're saying he's already come and it's not fixed, then what does that say?
No, we are fixing it. That's the thing. I mean, you know, look at the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, how much is spreading worldwide. It's in over 200 countries.
Okay. Let me just bring in some... Let me just bring in... Okay, let me just bring in some other callers. Zach got in contact with us. Happy New Year, Zach.
Happy New Year, all right, mate.
And what would you like to say, mate?
Yeah, basically, the first thing, right, I don't want this thing to look as a bad brush for all Muslims and Pakistanis. You know, it's not really about that. It's more about a clash of beliefs and ideologies. And give you the analogy, right? And the analogy is, Sikhs have the gurus. And if someone came in this day and age, like Lindsay Lohan, and said, I'm the next guru, Sikhs will be up in arms because they will believe.
You're really not you're not comparing the Ahmadi prophet to Lindsay Lohan, are you?
Lindsay Lohan, Hugh Jackman, all right? But the point is...
Oh, well, that's less insulting, I guess, yeah.
I like Wolverine. But if someone came, right, and said this, you know, people will be offended. And if you know Muslims have their beliefs and this is who we are, it's a makeup of who we are, and we believe in the last prophet, etc. And that's it. And the previous caller talks about there should be debate and discussion. There's been studies. There's been the scholars have dissected everything. And
do you feel insulted by Ahmadis describing themselves as Muslims?
You know what? I don't really care.
Right, okay.
I get on with my life. And the thing is that...
Would you have an Ahmadi friend?
I've only got a few friends. I've got one Sikh best friend and one Christian best friend. And
well, that was not the question I asked you, was it, Zach? I didn't ask for a whole range of your friends. I just wanted...
I couldn't put myself in that position. And I mean, when I was at college, you know, I knew all sorts of people. But the point is, you know, there's talks about the faith. But the thing is, Muslims get on with it. And like in Pakistan, right, huge industries are owned by Ahmadis, huge industries. And people don't care. They just do their thing.
Oh, well, that's an interesting point.
There's a huge Ahmadi community in Bradford. People get on with it and they don't care.
Okay, all right, Zach, Zach, I'm sorry, my friend, I'm going to have to leave it there. Umar is on the line as well. Happy New Year, Umar.
Happy New Year, Nihal. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Tell me, you're not an Ahmadi, are you?
No, I'm not. No.
Right. Okay. Now, do you think that Ahmadis get any discrimination pointed at them here in the UK?
Well, I don't know. I don't have any Ahmadi contact with any Ahmadi person in UK, but I'm from Pakistan.
Oh, okay.
And one of our best mates was Ahmadi, and I mean, we knew it. Everybody in school knew it, and everybody was cool about it. We used to sit together, eat together, and I mean, you know, when you're growing up together, you do all sorts of things together. So I mean, everybody was fine with it.
So are you saying it's not as bad as it's made out to be?
Not that I know of, because I mean I've lived in Pakistan all my life, and it's been, I mean, from what I remember, it's a very multicultural society. But what?
How long has it been since you've been there?
7 years.
7 years.
So probably changed in 7 years. I mean, I don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, good point, Umar. Thank you very much indeed for that. Being someone who takes part in a number of council and other political activities, I've seen discrimination against Ahmadis. For example, our local council of faith does not invite a representative from the Ahmadiyya community because they do not classify us as Muslims, and also because other Muslims representatives have said they will boycott the council if we are invited there. In my local sixth form, there were a number of students who refused to speak to me as I was an Ahmadi. Nihal, Happy New Year. I'm a British-born Ahmadi. There are persecutions happening on a daily basis within the UK. I can give you a few examples that I've experienced. When I was at uni, a few of my friends who I'd known for years was sitting. We started talking about religion, in which I revealed I was an Ahmadi. Nihal, you wouldn't believe it, but 2 to 3 people immediately walked away. The remaining that stayed actually discussed a few issues. Nihal, I have my own business. Every year we go to our Ahmadi Muslim convention, to which people around us know we have gone. 2 years ago we went, and on our return we found that there was 4 large A3 posters being taped to the doors and windows. The people we actually caught on CCTV putting them up, and the police were called in. The posters were very obscene and disgusting, printed professionally. To this day, we still haven't got any information from the police on the matter. So you tell me, Nihal, are we discriminated? Hi, Nihal, if that's how they treat each other with slight differences in their beliefs, what chances are there of them treating any other religion with any respect, says Raj. Interesting. Hi, Nihal. I'd like to share my experience as I've been assaulted verbally outside Morden Station when I was trying to share our views and clarify the misunderstandings spread by fanatics among mainstream Muslims. They walked off after a police officer approached me, left me astonished it could happen here as well. More than that, at my workplace, I've been taunted time to time because of my belief by fellow Muslims.
The sound of Asian Britain. On digital TV, online and on your mobile. This is BBC Asian Network.
Hello, it is 11 a.m. That was first hour done, and wow, that went very quickly indeed.
BBC Asian Network News.
An Ahmadi Muslim family from Glasgow have told Asian Network they want help from the government to bring home their dad, who's been jailed in Pakistan over blasphemy charges. 72-year-old Masood Ahmed was arrested in November after being secretly filmed reading verses from the Quran. The Pakistani government doesn't allow Ahmadis to worship openly because they're considered to be non-Muslims. His daughter Asiya has been talking to Asian Network.
That's very painful, to be honest, because he didn't hurt anybody and he's just reading the Quran, and he's innocent person. He never did anything wrong, or that's not a crime. I'm worried about him, how he's been doing over there, not proper food or anything, rest over there.
To keep up to date with the latest videos from the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association, subscribe to the MK UK Videos YouTube channel. Or, for more information about the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, log on to www.alislam.org.